Hello. Good morning to you. You live in a shoe. Except it is not the morning. It is currently 4:49 p.m. And I am on my way to go pick up Mr. Boo Radley from the kennel where his grooming is done. Apparently, he was quite the squealer today. He wasn't very happy about being groomed, so I'm sure he'll be very happy to come home. We made it on time this morning. I got him there. She wanted him there between like 8 and 9, and I got him there at like 10 after 8 because Alex woke up and was leaving, so I left right when Alex did. And it was so cute. Like, Alex took the dogs out and while I was getting dressed, and so then he put Tucker back in his, house downstairs, and Pee-Pee went upstairs and went back to bed. And so, like, Alex said Tucker looked really confused when Boo came out, and Boo was like trying to get back into the house, right? And so Boo came upstairs, and I like picked him up and I carried him in the car. And like I said, he's never been in the car, just he and I together. So, he was like a little nervous about it, but he was real cute. So anyway, then when I came home from taking him, I took Tucker out with Pee-Pee, and then I brought Tucker upstairs because I went back to bed. And Tucker literally like ran all over the house looking, like I think he was looking for Boo Radley. It was really cute. Like he acted real nervous at first, and then he came upstairs and he just kind of like he like looked through like the covers and stuff, because like Boo Radley gets underneath the covers like Pee-Pee does. Tucker really doesn't do that. But and I said to him, I said, Boo Radley will be back later. He went to the salon today. He's getting all pretty. And then Tucker, he just kind of sat there and looked at me. I said, you get to go next week, Tucker. I said, you'll get to go to the salon. And he said he likes the salon. So, no, he didn't say that. It was cute because I always talk about the dogs like as if they like have human lives, And so this morning, Alex said, this is kind of funny, actually. Alex said, Boo Radley said he doesn't want to get his nails done. And I said, he did, because I always talk about Tucker likes to go get his nails done at the nail salon. And I said, well, what did he say? He started laughing, because he never plays into it, and he was really trying to play into it. And he goes, he just said he doesn't want to get his nails done. He doesn't need to get his nails done. Well, when I called, our groomer said he wouldn't let me do his nails. So if you want to hold him, I'll do his nails, but he wouldn't let me do them. He kept on like screaming out, and I said, I'll hold him and you can do his nails because we've got to get his nails done, right? So she was like, okay. But isn't that funny that Alex said that? And Valerie today, she sent me her psychic's number, like this little pamphlet with her picture on it and stuff, and she goes, see, I do listen to your vlogs, because I was saying that Valerie hadn't given me the number for this psychic on there. So I'm calling that woman and I'm booking an appointment. I wonder if she would let me film the whole thing. That would be so cool, wouldn't it? I bet she wouldn't, though. See, I don't even like asking people if they'll let me do that stuff. Like, the weird thing about like YouTube, I think, is it kind of takes you a while like to just get on camera and be comfortable. Like, I'm way past that, right? But then it to vlog like out in public, like with people watching you, because as soon as you pull up a camera and you're filming yourself, people like especially like younger people, like people in high school, they'll stop you and be like, are you a vlogger? Like, they ask you that. And so it's kind of weird, and I'm always like real apprehensive about having my camera out, in public. But then to like ask other people, like if you're going somewhere, like, hey, do you care if I film in this restaurant? Like, I did a Bob Evans mukbang in the back of the restaurant. It's real old. I did it a long time ago, long before I was a vegetarian. And I said, do you care if I film in here? And they were like, film what? And I was like, well, I'm doing like a YouTube video and I want to like shit like a mukbang. And they're like, oh, no, not at all. And they're like, you can go back in that back room over there, and then there won't be anybody bothering you. And I was like, oh, thank you. So they let me sit in this like private room. They were really cool. Every person I've ever asked, except for Costco, they were totally rude about the whole thing, but everybody else has been like really, really friendly about it. So, oh, Tanya's here, yay. Tanya Jean Applestein, prettiest girl I've ever seen. I just filmed a review video of the Juniper Latte at Starbucks. Needless to say, I have not done a whole lot today. I slept in a little bit, and yeah. So, anyway, I'm gonna go in here and get Boo Radley, and I will show him when we come back out to the car, and then we'll head home. And I got a card today in the mail from Ryan, Jamie, and Stella. Stella sent that to me, and it's like a picture card, and I don't want to show you the pictures because that's private. So, but There are a couple things I do want to show you that I received. Okay, so this was so nice, you guys. And I don't want to read you the letter because the letter is really personal. But this is from Rebecca. And Rebecca sent me because I think because I was talking about how my mom saved greeting cards. Look at all of these cards. And there's like Halloween cards in here. There's like Happy Hello cards in here. It's fantastic. She sent me all of these cards, which is so cool because I'm always looking for like cards, you know, to take people places. And my mom used to collect them. She bought them every place. And so I literally sat here in the car with the P.O. box. This was like a couple days ago. Like, look, there's even a Happy Thanksgiving card. And it's really cute too. She sent me all these cards. Isn't that so nice? Thank you notes, everything, birthday cards. So anyway, I loved it. So thank you so much, Rebecca. That was awesome and totally unexpected. I thought that was so cool. And then, now I will tell you, Leary, L Leary's channel has been linked on my videos now for about a week underneath there. So, because I keep on forgetting to take it off. Not that I am going to, but L sent me, I think this is from L. Where's the card? Or maybe she didn't send me a card, she sent me. Yeah. So Elle sent me this Wonder Beauty baggage claim rose gold eye masks because I said I wanted to try those gold eye masks, but the ones I had, they didn't work. So she sent that to me. I'm assuming that's why. And then she also told me that she was sending me this eye cream, and she sent me this Alpen Beauty Wildcrafted Activities Plant Genius Line Filling Eye Balm. Can you see it? It's really a pretty package. Elle is so awesome. She just, I think she's at like 110, 120,000 subscribers now. I love her videos so much. And she's so down to earth. So here it is. Oh my God, this is so awesome. Oh, it smells so good. So, thank you so much, Elle. That was awesome. Go check out Elle's channel. It's listed below, I know for a fact, because I haven't taken it off there and it's been listed on there. Also, that t-shirt that I showed on here the other day is still linked below too. So you can go check that out on... I have all these workbooks back here too. You can go check those out. It's Klebold Threads. She has got so many really cool t-shirts, and the story is, her story is amazing too. And I reached out to her and she messaged me back and she was so awesome. And I'm actually thinking about doing a video. It will be after I lose quite a bit of weight because I want to combine, I don't want it to just be I lost weight video. It's going to be talking about like doing inventory on my life, changes I've made, you know, perspective of how my perspective has changed in the last few months. So I don't know when I'll do it. It'll probably be January, February sometime. But she has a t-shirt on there. I showed it on here the other night, or I said something about it that says, I'm not who I used to be, or I'm not who I was anymore. And I think I'm going to get the t-shirt and I'm going to wear it for that video because I love that. And so many people ask me about her t-shirts. Please go check out her website. I linked it below. It's Klebold Threads. It takes you right to the shirt that I had it on, but you can't, that I had on that night. But she has like 20 shirts on there, and each shirt has kind of like a meaning of why it is. So if you go read her story, you'll understand why it's on there. So go check it out. Now I'm gonna go get Boo Radley. He's so excited, I'm sure, to come home. He called me. He said, Dad, it's time for you to come get me. No, he didn't. Okay, I'll be back in just a little bit. We're back, and it's not focused. We're back. He was not very happy. He had to get his nails trimmed in the waiting area while I held him. But Boo Radley said, I had a pretty good day today. He has his bandana on. Did you have fun today? He says, not so much, Dad. He said, where's my brothers at? He said, I didn't have that good of a time today. But you look pretty. You look very, very pretty. And then on Monday, Tucker's getting groomed. Isn't he so sweet? On Monday, Tucker's getting groomed, and then we're gonna get you guys into the vet and get your annuals. Yeah. Aw, look at this. He's so sweet. All right, he was running around. He said, I'm pretty ready to get home. I'm tired. So we're gonna get off here, and yeah, I will see you guys a little bit later. Bye. Hello. How are you guys doing? Okay, so I don't know if I grabbed the wrong memory card or if I deleted the 2 previous clips that I had filmed on here, but I had 2 clips before. One was me on my way to go pick up Boo Radley at the kennel, and the other one was him in the car after he had gotten groomed. So I hope they're not deleted, but if they're deleted, then it's lost forever. No. It's lost forever. I think I took that memory card out and put it on the kitchen counter or like on the island. So if I did that, then I will upload both of them. So I'm, fingers crossed, hoping that I still have it. So anyway, but I picked up Boo Radley and then I came home and I filmed a couple videos. I had filmed a review video on my way there. I got the Starbucks Juniper Latte and I reviewed that. That's over my review channel. And then I did a Peterisms video and I did a booktube video. I didn't do a video for my Peter Monn channel today. And then I fed the dogs. And then I went to the grocery store and got a bunch of stuff because I was out of everything I needed to eat. And then I came back and made dinner and ate. And then I laid down. I basically just had a bunch of sausages and cheese and a yogurt and a granola bar. That was my dinner tonight. And I didn't even eat everything that I had laid out and everything that I had portioned out in my Fitness Pal for my meal. I just was not that hungry. So that was my dinner. And then I laid down for like an hour. And Alex went out to dinner with a girlfriend of his tonight, the one that had a baby recently, because he doesn't get to see her very often. And her husband was home tonight, so this was like a good night for them. So they went out to dinner, and then they went to Ocean Prime, which is kind of like a steakhouse here. And I don't know if it's a chain, if you guys, I think it's a chain, so some of you probably have Ocean Primes. But anyway, yeah, and then he's getting ready to come home, and I just gave PP his medicine and took the dogs out and everything. And now I'm going to get a fountain pop with Tanya. Well, she's getting a fountain pop, and then we have to go let the dogs out in the kennel, and I am going to get a bottle of water. But because I haven't charged my camera all day today, because I forgot to take the battery out and charge it, I'm going to have to charge it at Tanya's house and while we're gone, so... because I was going to see if she wanted to be on the vlog tonight. I actually got that free bag of stuff at Sephora, and I just thought I had forgotten to bring it, but it's this thing right here. I'm just going to give everything to Tanya that's in it. It's like little trial sizes of stuff. Not like trial sizes, but samples. It's like the samples of all different kinds of stuff. I went through and took a couple things out that I wanted to try, but other than that, like, I'm giving her the majority of it. So anyway, and that has been pretty much my day. And then I brought all my workout clothes. So depending on how I feel, after Tanya and I get done getting a fountain pop, I will see if I'm thinking about maybe going to work out. It'll depend on how I'm feeling. I'm just feeling really kind of like blah today, like not super motivated, but I feel like if I could at least get myself into the gym, because I have to be in there 3 times. So if I could at least get in there and work out for like somewhere between a half an hour and an hour, I think if I got in there tonight, I kind of feel like I could do a lot more if I just got my butt in there, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm going to try to do. And yeah, we'll see though. Like I said, I brought all my stuff to change, so. I took a nice nap tonight. It was real cozy. With the dogs. So, alright, I'm almost at Tanya, so I'm going to get off here. And then I will be... I hope to God I have those clips from before. I mean, it's not a huge deal or anything like that, but people are really like, look at this one house over here. Can you guys see it? Here, I'll show you. You can see it from far away, but they like, you can't really see it. Here, I'll show you really quick. I'll drive around there. Look at that. Christmas decorations. Aren't those so pretty? So anyway, not a huge deal if I didn't include those clips, but oh, they have a Santa Claus and a Frosty sitting over here on a big log or something. Don't you love when you go to like people's houses and they just have all kinds of random decorations? It just kind of cracks me up. But I love that people do this. I still have not got my Christmas tree up. That was my one goal for the day, and I didn't get to it. I feel like I was just kind of running all day today. Well, after I got up from having taken Boo Radley into the kennel this morning to get groomed. So, anyway, all right, you guys, listen, I'm gonna get off here, and I will be back in just a little while. Bye. Hello, I'm back. Okay, so I just dropped off Tanya, and then I was listening to this Melissa Etheridge song that I downloaded. I think I talked about it on here last night, but it's called Glorious. It's a Christmas song. It's really pretty. And I'm gonna vlog for a while, and then I may go work out. I'm gonna try to. It's 1:14 a.m., so it'll be a late workout. I don't know. I may skip it tonight and just listen to my audiobook and just go home and go to bed. I may skip it. So, let's see. We drove around forever and talked. We had a kind of catching up. We hadn't really been able to talk a whole lot since she's been back from vacation. So we were just kind of talking about all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I have no idea what direction this is going to go, but while I was sitting in her driveway, I was like looking through the comments on my videos. So I thought I would address some of the comments that people left. Well, there were just like two that people asked questions about. They asked them very nice, and I actually thought they were good kind of like things to talk about on here. So, it got me really thinking, you know, there's been like a couple movies, a couple documentaries that have been put out the last couple years about sobriety. And one of them I think is called Anonymous. I've actually never seen it, but I heard it was really, really good. And, but there's a couple documentaries that have come out the last couple years about sobriety and recovery and things like that. And I have wanted to make a documentary forever, but I know that, like, you know, my editing skills obviously are not grade A. But I actually have a friend of mine that lives here in Indianapolis, and he went to school for documentary filmmaking. And I'm thinking about, like, maybe talking to him and seeing if in 2019 he'd be interested in, like, doing a documentary on recovery. And I don't know, talking to a couple people, but like getting some different points of view, like having somebody that's in a 12-step program, somebody that's early on, somebody, you know, that has been sober for a long time, maybe somebody that doesn't, you know, utilize a 12-step program, things like that, and kind of, you know, doing it from different points of view. I think it'd be kind of interesting. I've always wanted to be part of making a documentary, so I think he would be down to do any kind of documentary. And maybe there's some other things. I always thought it would be kind of fun too, just to like pick something I didn't know a whole lot about and educate myself on and do a documentary about it, you know? I mean, it's kind of, documentary is kind of like filmmaking, nonfiction writing, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of like essay writing, so to speak. I mean, it's very interesting to me, and I love, this has nothing to do with the comments that were left, but I love watching documentaries. So anyway, and I think, you know, today documentaries are so artistic in how they're done. Like, they're not just about, let's tell a story about, you know, some kind of certain group of people or whatever. It's like how they're done and how they're woven and all of that kind of stuff. I'm currently watching, actually, the confession tapes on Netflix, which is, it's so interesting because each one of them, except for the first two, there's two parts to the first one, or the first one, there's two parts to it. But other than that, I think all of them are just like an hour long. And so they're kind of like mini documentaries. They're very well done. And they're all about people that got convicted on a false confession. Or they supposedly say it's a false confession. If you liked Making a Murderer, you would really like the confession tapes. There's some similar kind of, it reminds me a lot of the Brendan Dassey case in Making a Murderer. Anyway, I mean, which could actually just fit into the confession tapes because it's very similar to the rest of the stories on there. But I got two comments in the last 24 hours that I thought would be like good things to talk about on here. And the first one was about like my mom and I's relationship with drinking. I think I'm gonna talk about that one first. And the second one was if there is no afterlife, would I still work as hard to be happy and kind and healthy? And I think that's such a great question, and it's actually something that I have thought a lot about in my past, you know, and especially being that I have a husband that is atheist to agnostic, somewhere in that spectrum. So it's something that he and I have talked a lot about. And I have a lot of friends of mine that are atheist, and so I want to talk about that in a second. But the question about my mom was really interesting. And maybe I'm like right here at the post office. Maybe I should just pull in here and read the question. I think I'll do that. Dun dun da 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 da. Whenever I hum that song, I'm always humming. It's the theme to Rear Window. Okay. Let me find the question. I did not know, first of all, that in New Jersey, it's all full service gas pumps. So thank you for educating me on that. Okay. And Audrey went and bought a bunch of Lush products today because I told her to in the videos now. Uniquely Melody, you need to be studying for your exams, but thank you for binge watching my vlogs. I love that. Okay. And Rebecca, I want to thank you for all of the tips on the travel stuff and trying to find the robes for me. That was awesome. People are so, you guys are so awesome. Okay. She emailed me as well. And I did not know that the Swiftie that I was talking about in Seymour closed down, so thank you, Katie. Okay. Where is the first question? Okay, so wait, I also want to say, Lauren recommended for me to talk to Reverend Celeste Elliott of Lilydale. And she said that Lilydale is the world's largest center for spiritualism and mediums. Okay, what was so weird when I got this comment was that a couple years ago, because all my friends know that I am like obsessed with spirit guides and not spirit guides, but psychics and psychic mediums and stuff like that. And my friend said, you have to see this documentary, just talking about documentaries, called No One Dies in Lilydale. And it is about Lilydale, New York, which is where, like she said, it's how did she say it? The world's largest center for spiritualism and mediums. And they have all these like mediums and psychics that live there, and people go there and they get readings and all this kind of stuff. And I've always wanted to go, but if you want to see this documentary, it's fantastic. It's called No One Dies in Lilydale. I think that's what it's called. Okay. So the first question is by Right at Home, and it is, I have a question, you really don't have to answer it though. When you talk about your mom's drinking, you only talk about from when you were a child, not about it as an adult and being an alcoholic at the same time. I'm curious what your relationship looked like at that point. Also, when you talk about getting sober, you talk about the support your father gave, but you don't talk about your mom at that time, but have said that your mom became sober after you, and you've spoken about your relationship with your mom once you were both in sobriety. I know I'm just being nosy, I mean no disrespect. I don't think it's nosy actually at all. I think it's a great question, and I talk so much about that it was interesting to me that this question even came up, because I was like, I wonder if like subconsciously I kind of like leave those parts of the story out. I don't know, you know, like maybe, but I want to talk about that in a second. And then the second question that I got is from Hamalud, and she said, do you think you would still work as hard as you do today to stay healthy, happy, and kind if there was not an afterlife? I'm very spiritual myself, but I think it's interesting to consider other points of view and alternate realities, don't you? Absolutely, I do. So I kind of just thought it would be fun to talk about those kind of things and just kind of tell some stories too. And then Lauren literally just commented 14 minutes ago. She said, can't wait for the vacation vlogs. Me too. I cannot wait. I'm ready to go on vacation. Okay, so I don't really know where to start with like the mom stuff. So when I was a kid and I was growing up, like when I was really little, you know, my mom's drinking, I think it was bad, but it got a lot worse as I entered like late junior high school. But at the same time, I was also drinking and participating in a lot of substances. And it's interesting because a couple years ago, I think I've probably even talked about it on here. I was gonna write this book, and it was half of it. It was gonna be called Boy, because that's a nickname for heroin. And the first half of it was gonna be about this kid that was in high school and his using, and it was all told from different people's points of view. Like, it started off, and the whole book started off being told from his dog's point of view. And then it was like his mom and like his aunt and his stepmother and his father and all his girlfriend and all these different people. And then at the end, like the end of the first half, he dies of an overdose. And then the second half is how all of these people that have talked about him in the first half, like their response to his having passed away. And it's interesting because in the book, the mother is an alcoholic, obviously, right? Let's pull a little autobiography from that. And even though I wasn't a heroin addict, I mean, you know, to me, on some level, I know that I'm going to get a lot of people that don't understand this, but this is kind of a recovery saying, a drug is a drug is a drug. So the behaviors and things are very similar a lot. I mean, there are certain behaviors that are different per drug, but overall the way that it affects people, I think, is similar. So anyway, and the way that I was going to portray her in the book was very similar to how it was with my mom. Like, when I was in late junior high to high school, it's like my mom was over here doing her thing and I was over here doing my thing, and we just kind of were like this. We never like met in the middle. And there were times that my mom would try to play like my parents were both always very, very involved, but like my mom's drinking really spiraled out of control when I was in high school. And I think to a point where I got very disgusted with it. Even though I was drinking and stuff too, like I looked down on her a lot for that. And I think I've told this on here. I was talking the other night about like us taking a walk the one night when we were both drinking. I was probably 19 or 20 at that time. I don't think she knew I had been drinking that night. The thing is that my mom knew that I drank and did stuff, and it obviously, because I had been in treatment programs and all that stuff was dealt with, but she didn't acknowledge it and allow me to drink around her. Like, she was never that mom. Like, she would always say, like, no, you're not going to have a glass of wine, or even if she was, like, at the point that she knew that I did do that stuff, like, she wasn't okay. She was never okay with it. And she would always, like, guilt trip herself and say, I'm such a bad, like, when she was sober, she would say, I'm such a bad role model for you and whatever. And I would say things, I mean, we did not have a great relationship, you know, at times when I was in high school. And I would say, when I talk about my mom the way that I talk about her, I really talk about her from sobriety on, okay? And that first, I would say 6 months to a year was also, it was difficult for us because we were getting to know each other again, you know? And the whole time I was growing up, I was very much the parent, even though I was drinking. I poured a lot of alcohol down the drain. Even though I was drinking, I would sit there and pour her alcohol down the drain because I was so angry. Like, I didn't understand addiction at that point yet. And so I was so angry at the alcohol that I would just like pour it down the drain because I felt like I was like punishing her or something, or making her pay for, I don't know. I looked down on it a lot, even though I was participating in the same behaviors. Somehow I like could rationalize that in my head. And I know it sounds crazy, but we really didn't have much of a relationship, you know, like, she kind of did her thing and I did my thing, and I just didn't see her a lot. Like, you know, we would still eat meals together and things like that, but like, it's weird, like, looking back on high school. Also, my mom worked a lot when I was in high school, and you know, at periods she had teaching positions, and at other periods she was working retail. And she was tired all the time, and she would come home and she would just start drinking, and like, it just wasn't pretty. Life did not look pretty when I was in high school. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I was very attracted of being at my dad's house a lot, because it did seem more like a family over there, you know, like, and even though my mom would like make meals and stuff, it was almost like, it was more to just kind of keep up this appearance of what a family was supposed to look like. If you've lived through this, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's almost kind of hard to explain. Like, everything that we did was almost out of appearance, if that makes sense. But like, And it wasn't, you know, all the time. Like, as I'm saying that, I can remember, like, you know, I sewed a lot in high school, and I made outfits for my friends. So, like, I would sit in, like, the guest bedroom, and I had, like, my sewing machine set up in there and stuff like that, and I would make these outfits for my friends, and then, you know, like, I would call them up, and I would bring it over there. My mom would be, like, watching a movie in, like, the other room or something, and she would come in, and she would check on me. I mean, there were nights that we had that were very nice together, but, like, I wouldn't say we were that close. I would say that I definitely was more the parent in that relationship, you know? Like, I had to take care of my mom. She was very emotionally unstable, and she was a very fearful person. And then you combine that with, you know, alcohol, and it just was a lot. And I was always worried about my mom, but if I wasn't worried about my mom, then she was driving me crazy. And so it just was a lot. And then when I moved into my apartment, because I moved to my apartment when I turned 18, I rarely went home, like, if ever. Like, I would go home for, like, a dinner every once in a while, but I didn't even really want to be there then, you know? And my mom had really no clue what my life looked like, because once I moved out, I was going out literally, like, every night. And she really had no clue of what it looked like. I mean, I think she thought I was just, I mean, she knew now after I got sober, like we talked about it, not now, but like after we got sober, like I told her what that looked like. But I think she really just thought, like, Peter's in college and he, you know, has an apartment because he's in college and he drinks sometimes, but it's probably not out of control. Until the things that happened, like where I was hit by the van. And that was like a wake-up call to her. But, you know, alcoholism is a disease of selfishness. It's rooted in selfishness and self-centeredness, right? So anything that happened to me was really about how it was affecting her, if that makes sense. Like, she, like, if something happened like that, she would say, like, well, like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. Like, what am I supposed to do? You know, like, you tell me you're okay, but you're not okay. And like, what am I supposed to, I'm your parent. Like, I should know what's going on. I'd be like, mother. Like, these are the conversations we would have, you know? And, where my dad was just very pragmatic and just like, this is what we're gonna do, and so I would just shut my mouth and listen to whatever my dad told me. So my mom and I we kind of have this fade out relationship. And because, you know, I was her life as an only child, and, you know, most of her friends were still married, when I moved out, I had no idea at the time how really, truly lonely my mom was. I mean, really, really lonely. And that's why then, when I moved out, her drinking went from, like, you know, several nights a week to every night of the week, I think. And it just was really, really bad. And I didn't even know it was that bad. I mean, because holidays and stuff, when I would see her, you know, sure, she would drink. But, like, if I came over there for dinner, like, when I was growing up, like, I don't ever remember my mom, like, maybe, but, like, I don't remember her sitting there and having, like, a glass of wine at, like, while we were having dinner at the dinner table. Like, I don't remember that. Like, I remember her having a glass of water, or milk. Like, I don't remember her having a glass of wine. She always kind of looked at drinking as, like, a reward, or, like, you know, a way to, like, entertain or celebrate, even though that's not how it was for her down the road. You know what I mean? So by the time that I was 18 and I had moved out, we really, and maybe that's why I don't talk about that period in my life, I mean, we just really didn't have much of a relationship. You know, it was interesting, I was talking to Tanya tonight in the car, and I said, do you get weird, like, right before your sobriety date? And she goes, oh yeah, always. The weeks before, I always get very dark, and I said, well, this year it's like especially hard for me. I don't know what it is, like, this year. It just, like, I'm just every day kind of struggling a little bit to get motivated, you know? And I'm thinking back a lot to that time in my life, but what I said to her was, I said, you know what's so weird, Tanya, is I don't even really remember those days leading up to it. Like, I have an image here or an image there, but, like, I don't really, like, I couldn't give you a solid memory of, like, a whole day around that time. And sure, yeah, it's been 24 years, right? But, like, at the same time, it's like, to not have any clue what I did for, like, an entire month, you know what I mean? Like, none whatsoever. I mean, I have no idea what I did that whole month. Like, I don't remember anything hardly, you know? And I think the only reason that I remember bits and pieces of the last night is because it was the last night. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, that was my relationship with my mom. You know, going into, me getting sober. I really distanced myself a lot. And in fact, the house that I grew up in, my mom had put up for sale, and I really had a hard time with that. And I just, at that point, kind of refused going over there. And my aunt was just like, my aunt had called me a couple times, and she's like, we've got to get your mom out of that house. It's just not healthy for her. You know, she's there all alone in this big house. She's terrified. And I was like, okay, do it. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't remember being real involved in any of that. And the reason that I know that that had to have been like months before that was because my mom moved out while I was in treatment. Like, she literally moved out of her house into the condo like on Christmas Eve. Because she later would tell me that. Like, I would talk about like what Christmas and Christmas Eve meant to me, like in treatment. She'd say it was no better for me. And she'd say because I was like, you know, like moving, I literally was carrying boxes over to the condo on Christmas Eve. And she didn't do anything with my aunt and uncle that year or anything. And I think that's why Christmas became so important to us after that as well, you know? And so, I do remember my aunt, like, showing me a couple, like, I was with my mom and my aunt, maybe, like, and I remember them showing me, like, pictures of a couple different condos, because I know that one of their condos that my mom looked at where they're at, because they're real close by. And I remember them showing me a picture of the condo that I live in now, and I was like, that's the one you need to go with. And, but, like, just, I don't know, I just wasn't close. We just weren't close. We didn't talk a whole lot, and when we did, it just was just, she would, you know, be driving me crazy with questions about this and about that. I would just be like, mother. I mean, it was not a healthy relationship. And then when I got sober, and I was told, well, first of all, my dad, so when I went into treatment, he called everybody and told them not to take my calls because I would try to manipulate them into coming and getting me. If they really cared about me, then they wouldn't do that, right? And so he specifically said, and don't call your mother, because she has had, you know, explicit directions to not take your calls. And I called her like a couple times and she just hung up the phone, like right away. She just hung up the phone. And so anyway, which I'm sure was just, you know, really difficult for her. But when I was in treatment, my counselor said to me, you know, you have to change people, places, and things. You cannot continue to hang around the same people, places, and things. Whether they were people that you used with, whether they were people that were triggers for you, whether they were people that, you know, if you use them as excuses and whatever, which was hard because my dad was kind of that for me too. Like, I would use him as an excuse to go drink because we would get into arguments and whatever. But I needed to have an interaction with my dad because my dad was my lifeline to, you know, everything at that point. So I remember calling my mom in treatment and I said, you know, they tell me that I can't continue to be around. And I had always wanted my mom to get sober. This is the thing. My mother, her introduction into a 12-step program, like, this was not her first time at the rodeo. Like, she had gone many, many, many times and tried. And in fact, when she passed away, it's gonna stop, hold on a second. Okay. When she passed away, so in that specific 12-step program, you get coins for 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months, a year, 18 months, and multiples of years. Okay, so I found all her coins, right? Well, in there's a coin that we sometimes call a beginner chip or starter token, or desire chip, some people call it. And basically, it's if you've gone back out and you come back into the program, you can get one. And it's basically you're starting over, right? She had many of those, like to the point where I had no clue how many times she had started over before she got sober the last time on June 2nd. And, you know, she had a friend. My mom actually came in to... It was interesting because I was talking to my sponsor the other day, and I said, do you have a problem with me talking about what program? And she said, you can't talk about the program as far as, like, overall. She's like, but you can talk about your experience being sober and whatever. And I was like, okay. So my mom actually came in. She got sober through Al-Anon. She had a friend of hers that was taking her to Al-Anon meetings because of me. And my mom was sitting in a meeting, and somebody was telling their story. Now, Al-Anon is a 12-step program for friends and family members of alcoholics and addicts. My mom was sitting in an Al-Anon meeting, and somebody was giving their lead, telling their story about the alcoholic that had affected them, and it was their mother. And my mom was sitting there, and this was actually part of her story that she would tell, and she was sitting in this meeting, and she said she got hot-faced, and she was like, I'm an alcoholic, like, I'm in the wrong meeting. And that was how she got sober. On top of that, my uncle had a massive heart attack 2 weeks before my cousin got married, and that was like the day or two before my mom got sober was when my Uncle Dave had a massive heart attack. He was a long-term heart patient before he passed away. And because that would have been in 95 that he had that, in June of 95. And my mom decided that her getting sober had nothing to do with me. My mom decided that whether she lived another, year or another 20 years, that she wanted the quality of her life to improve. That she no longer, because, she was somebody that, had never gotten a DUI. She had never, she drank in the privacy of her home. Yes, everybody in her life knew that she was an alcoholic, but she kind of just acted like, who, me, what, out of sight, out of mind. But my mother, one of her favorite slogans was, I haven't gotten a DUI yet. And we don't call them DUIs anymore. We call them OWIs, I think. But anyway, operating while intoxicated. It used to be called driving under the influence. But YET, I haven't gotten a DUI yet, stands for you're eligible to. It could happen to you, if you keep on drinking and using. So, and that was one of my mom's favorites because she would remember that. And she'd say that, I could be homeless drinking on the streets. I could, have DUIs out the ass and be in jail. It's just circumstances were different for me, and I just somehow my life turned out different than somebody else's. She got that very quickly. And my mother was also somebody that I would say at about a year or two, she truly believed that the desire to drink had been lifted from her. She firmly believed. She would have fought you tooth and nail. She believed that the desire to drink had been lifted from her. And the, 12-step programs promise us that they don't promise that you'll be in recovery. That's kind of a treatment thing that we say, I'll be in recovery for the rest of my life. That's a treatment concept, but 12-step programs tell you that you will be recovered. And my mother believed that. She believed that she was recovered, even though she continued to go to meetings for the rest of her life, and she had a sponsor, and she worked steps and did service work and all that. She believed she was recovered from alcoholism, and that the desire to drink had been lifted from her. She, honest to God, believed that. She didn't have cravings. I would say to her, you don't ever have cravings? She'd say, I never have cravings. Never. And, so, and I don't know, that's her experience. It's not mine. But I always wanted my mom to be sober. I always, even from a young kid's age, I just wanted her to stop drinking. And then in junior high and high school, I just wished that she would. And I just honestly, when I was in treatment and stuff, and I would do family sessions, or she would go to whatever she had to go to or talk about it, she would sit there and she wouldn't talk about her drinking. And I would be like, this is total bullshit, this is totally BS. And when I became a counselor, that was one of the things I vowed that I wasn't gonna play in that game. And so when people would tell me that their family members used, we addressed it. I was like, we're going to address this. You can't go back into that same environment if it's not addressed. And, I had a lot of family members say to me through the years, well, because, so-and-so's coming home, does that mean that I can't have a case of beer in the fridge, or I can't have a margarita? And I would say, if it's really that important to you over your spouse or your child's sobriety, that you have a 6-pack of beer in the fridge, maybe you need to check your own substance use. Like, let's be for real here. And nobody had ever said that to my mom. You know, nobody had ever challenged her in her drinking or anything like that. So I think, like, I don't blame that on my continued relapse until I got sober, but I do think that it was, like, justifiable anger to some degree, that I would, like, get real upset about it, and I'd be like, well, if she doesn't have to stay sober, why do I? And my life is a living hell because I'm sober and I have to deal with her. No, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, emotionally, I was lacking development at that age. Excuse me. But, I always wanted my mother to get sober. And one of the reasons why I tell her story today, and I tell my story with her, is I don't want anybody to ever give up hope, okay, that they can't get sober or that their family members can't get sober. My mother was 51 when she got sober, and I never in a million years would have ever believed that she would have stopped drinking, let alone become such a valuable part of a recovery program to where, like, I mean, women still to this day come up to me and are like, your mother changed my life. You know what I mean? Like, I had no clue the lives that she had touched. You know what I mean? And to me, she was just my mom that got sober, even though, like, so then about the support part. When my mom got sober, like, at first, I would say, you know, like, the first couple months, we would talk. I was apprehensive. I had seen her do this deal before, like I said. Like, she had, I'm going to meetings. I'm going to go to meetings. I went to a meeting. I tried to go to a meeting. I drove to a meeting. I mean, I had heard it all, right? So I wasn't real convinced. And at that point, you know, I was 6 to 9 months sober, and I was doing my thing, and I was, like, at that point, you know, working in a treatment program, and I was, like, busting my ass, and I was, like, you know, going to meetings every day and working with a sponsor, and so I knew what it looked like, you know what I mean? And so, like, I just didn't see my mom a whole lot around that time, A, because I was really, really busy, but B, because I just didn't, I needed to focus on me. You know, I'm a big believer in your first year sober, you need to take a lot of time, a lot of me time to yourself, which is why you shouldn't get in relationships, which is the one thing I did do. And I wish I hadn't in retrospect. But I learned a lot from those experiences, so, you know. So I would say that summer, late in that summer, like August, I started going over to my mom's a lot and drinking coffee, and we would talk about sobriety, we would talk about meetings, and, you know, we were both early in sobriety, and when you're early in sobriety, it's like, you're just so, like, excited. I mean, you really are either completely resistant to it because you don't want to be sober, I think, or you're kind of, like, borderline obsessed talking about it. Like, you're reading every book, you're talking about it, you're listening to leads. We had cassettes back in the day. People would pass these cassettes around of, like, so a speaker lead is somebody getting up and telling their story, and they do them at conventions and conferences and all this kind of stuff. So, or just regular meetings. And so, like, my mom and I would be passing cassette tapes back and forth. Oh my God, did you hear so-and-so's lead? And it was so fantastic. And we would talk about recovery stuff and things our sponsors had shared, and, you know, with us and what we were working on, and just all of it. It was just, it was new. And what ended up happening over time was that we started building a new relationship between us. And one of the things that we, I don't know why I'm, like, getting emotional talking about this. One of the things that we agreed on early on, I have literally no idea why I'm getting real emotional right now, but one of the things, I think just because I can kind of see myself and my mom sitting there talking about this stuff, you know, it's like, I really mean this in the bottom of my heart. You know, I was reading through those messages tonight, those comments, and somebody said that, I think it was their sister or their aunt's son had just gotten arrested for a DUI. Don't ever give up hope. Please don't ever give up hope. You don't ever know when somebody is going to hear the message or the seed has been planted, you know? The seed had been planted in me years before I ever started taking root, you know, in me. But, my mom and I made a decision early on that for us to survive independently sober, our sobriety couldn't rely on one another. And so we made a commitment that we would never go to the same meeting together, that we would never listen to each other's lead, which means we would never hear the other person's story. We would never share a 4-step, which who would do that anyway, you know, which is an inventory with each other. We would never do any of that kind of stuff. Like, our programs would be completely separate. And from that point, I think maybe we went to, like, I don't know, like, I don't think we ever went to one meeting together. I don't really believe that we did. I don't know. But from that point going forward, our programs were completely separate. We talked a lot about sobriety. We talked a lot about recovery constantly. It was the language that we spoke in our house, you know? But we never, like, our programs never overlapped. And in fact, I didn't even know that we knew some of the same people until after my mom passed away, and, like, they came to the funeral, or it would come up in a meeting and they would be like, oh my God, you know, I didn't know that was your mom. And so it was really cool, you know, and I think, like, with couples especially that get sober together, I think it's important. I see a lot of couples sit in meetings together, because, like, here's the thing. Like, I needed to talk about my mom, right? Like, I needed to talk about anger and resentment that I had and fear that she would go back out. And, like, how am I supposed to have that conversation and share that deep part of my soul with my mom sitting 10 feet away from me? I can't do that, right? So we needed to not be that intertwined in our programs. And I think it was one of the greatest decisions that I feel like I've ever personally made in my life. I think it really saved our relationship, and I think it really allowed us both to have the sobriety that we had. Therefore, as supportive as my mother was, and she was incredibly supportive to the point where I can remember at, like, 2 or 3 years sober one time, she brought all this shit to work on my sobriety birthday, and they called me and they said, your mom's at the front desk, she's got all this stuff for you. And so I came up there, and she had one of those little mini Christmas trees that I was talking about. You know, she had bought one for me with ornaments on it because she knew how much that had meant to me when I was in treatment. And I was like, Mom, why did you come here? Like, don't be bringing me all this stuff in treatment. And she was like, I'm so proud of you, you know, like, I wanted to give you this stuff. She brought me, like, some gifts. It was like a meditation book probably, or something, you know, some kind of book. She was always buying me books. But she bought me a couple things, you know, and I remember the person that had been my counselor happened to just be coming in at that time. Well, she I don't think had ever met my mom, and so she stopped and we were talking and whatever, and she went back, I'll never forget this, and she went back and she emailed everybody in the hospital, and she said, just wanted to congratulate Peter on so many years sober, blah, 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 whatever. And I was pissed, and I walked down to her office. I said, why did you put that out there? And she goes, why are you so private about it? She's like, you need to let people know that people can stay sober, and that they can work in treatment programs, and that, you know, they can make something in their life. You need to let people know that. Like, that's a message that people need to know, you know? I was like, okay. And at that point, I just kind of accepted it. But I think it is important to stay humble with all of it, too. You know, it's like, so my mom was really supportive of it. But, you know, like, my dad, I think, the thing was, my nose is, like, running like crazy. And I don't have any tissues in here. The thing is that my dad was supportive of me, but he didn't get it. Like, he learned it, I think, over time by reading the books and, you know, teaching himself and stuff like that. But, like, it took a long time. It just did for my dad, you know. God love him. It just took a long time. Like, when Alex and I said we were getting married in Vegas, my dad was like, okay, so we got married in 2011, right? Yeah. So I would have been sober at that point. 94 to 04. I'm so bad with math, you guys. 17 years I've been married, 17 years I've been sober at that point. That can't be right. Okay, 94 to 04 is 10. 04 to 05. Yeah, I would have been coming up on 18 years sober. So, I was 17 years sober, And I know somebody just said you did the math wrong, but whatever. I mean, I'm like over 10 years sober, over 15 years sober, right? And my dad was like really concerned that we were having our wedding in Las Vegas. He was like, now Peter, like, I'm really worried, like, are you gonna be drinking out there? Like, you know, it's Las Vegas. I'm like, Dad, I'm gonna be just fine. It's gonna be okay. He's like, well, I'm just worried. I just don't, you know, I want you to think this through. I'm like, Dad, it's gonna be okay, you know? So anyway, and that was like a really important part of our wedding too. Like, A, that the toast did not have alcohol in our glasses, either one of us. And B, I didn't care that there was alcohol there, but I sure shit wasn't paying for it. That was like one thing. And my dad ended up picking up the tab for everybody, which I thought was kind of funny and kind of weird at the same time. But anyway, it was nice. That house was like completely covered in those lights that like shine up, you know what I mean? Anyway, so it's weird. I don't know. It's like, I wouldn't say that my mother was supportive, and I wouldn't say she wasn't supportive. It's a different relationship. I mean, like, it was more like, you know, like when I talk about my old roommate, like being super supportive of me, what I mean by that is like, she stopped drinking. Like, if we went and did stuff, alcohol was never a part of it, you know? She asked a lot of questions. But my mom and I, it was like two people that were in early sobriety together getting excited about it. And so as much as you could have been, I don't know that I was any more supportive of her than she was of me, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we were so focused on ourselves that it wasn't about supporting the other person. And I think that's exactly how it needed to be at that time. So anyway, I don't know. I love talking about that stuff, you know, and it's interesting to me, like, when you look back on it, especially the older you get, like how your perspective changes about things. I wish my mom had been able to, you know, I see these women in the meetings, and they'll be in their, you know, mid to late 70s, and I know a lot of men too that have 40 years of sobriety, and, you know, their entire adult life has been sober, and they got sober in 40, 50, you know. And I look at them, and they're just so peaceful, and I sometimes think I wish my mom had been able to have that, you know, like, I don't know. I mean, she did have that for the 13 years almost that she was sober, but 12 years and 11 months, because she didn't believe that we borrow time in the program. But at the same time, like she got to enjoy the gifts, I think, of sobriety. But I think there's like a different gift that comes with like long-term sobriety. And I mean, shit, when you've been like, I mean, I've been sober more than half of my life. Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? I don't think I'd have it any other way, though. So, yeah. And then the other question, where am I at on time? Okay. And then the other question, which was, would I work as hard on an afterlife if there was no afterlife? Okay, first of all, it's like a hard question for me to answer. Like, would I work as hard at being like healthy, kind, and happy and all that kind of stuff, compassionate, if there was no afterlife? Well, I think that implies that the reason that I do it is because there is an afterlife, which really, to be honest with you, maybe at some point, but that's not, I'm not like a person that's afraid of going to heaven or hell. I don't, like, that's not my perception of what an afterlife is. Oh, this could get real deep, and people might not want to hear this, but I'm not a big believer in purgatory or hell. I wasn't raised Catholic. I don't believe a lot of that stuff, right? I believe that, I kind of believe that if you want redemption, you are given redemption, right? But I think there are a lot of people that are kind of stuck in the in-between, so to speak, if that makes sense. Do I think that we're judged and held accountable for our sins? Absolutely, I do. I don't know how that looks. I don't know that I think that looks, like, I don't know what that looks like, you know what I mean? I worry about myself. And, so, like, for me, it's not like, well, if I'm not a happy, kind person, I'm not going to make it into heaven. So I don't look at it that way, first of all. The second thing is, I really have never not thought that there was an afterlife. Like, I can't ever remember, like, believing there isn't anything. I do allow that there could be nothing at the end, and it would be just complete, like, darkness, and I actually used to get kind of freaked out by that a little bit. Like, I would lay in bed sometimes and start thinking about that, and I'd be like, well, what if there's nothing forever and ever and ever and ever and ever? And I kind of get a little panicky about it, you know? But I've never really believed that. So, although, like, here's my perception of the world. I've used that word about 15 times today. But anyway, is that if I work hard to be this good person or whatever, and I'm judged based on that at the end of my life, I kind of believe anybody makes it into the afterlife. You know, do I believe that the world's worst people in the entire world, serial killers and things like that? I think there's probably some harsh judgment, okay? I think there's probably some learning experiences they have to go through before maybe they make it into the afterlife. But I think, by and large, most people on the street that live pretty good lives, do I think that they make it into some kind of afterlife? And sure. Do I think that we go through kind of like a judgment? Yes, I believe that. Where, not judgment necessarily, but where we take a look at our life. Did you ever see the movie? And it was with Meryl Streep, and it was called, like, Defending Your Life, and it was fantastic. And even though it was very humorous, like, I do kind of believe that's what we do. Like, I believe that kind of, like, we have to take a look at our lives, you know, and, like, maybe the finest and the worst moments, and, like, who were you really as a person, you know, and did you learn what you're supposed to learn here? I'm also a believer that there possibly could be reincarnation to some degree, and what that looks like is not in the Buddhist kind of idea of reincarnation, which I don't know tons about, but more that, like, if you didn't learn what you were supposed to learn when you came here before, that maybe you come back for another time to learn some other things, you know, and that being here is really about an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to learn. I do also believe that we sometimes pick who we're born into, where we're born, circumstances of our life to learn specific lessons. And you can either reject the lesson, or you can say, you know what, I'm going to do the best that I can with this to learn what I can learn from this. It's why some people that have gone through the most adversity in their world or in their lives, you know, whether it be medical conditions or difficulties in the world, and they've come out on top, and they're very calm, peaceful people. I think those are older souls that have long learned the lesson, and they're now practicing it in a new life form. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I have lots of questions about things. I like to speculate about all of it, you know? But at the end, if there is nothing, and it's just total blackness, you know, forever, it stopped. Okay, and I'm not going to know that anyway, right? So, by trying to apply meaning to the things that have happened in my life, whether it really existed or not, and trying to be a happy, kind person and healthy person, well, I've really only been the one that's gained by that in the end. Well, maybe some of the people that I've encountered, you know, but, like, I've been the one that's gained as a result of that, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the one that has come out on top, even if there isn't anything at the end. And if there is, and then I'm held accountable for trying to be a better person, trying to be the best version of myself that I can be, and I fall short of that a lot. You know, I fall short of that a lot. But I try to look at those things as learning experiences and say, you know what, I don't want to be this fuck up. I don't want to be this person, you know? And I think, like, that's where it's opportunity for growth. And then if there is something afterwards, well, then, you know, we'll take a look at it. So either way, to me, and honestly, it's interesting because until the question came up, I don't really think much about it. I really don't, you know? But I do think about things that happen in my life, like, especially if I find myself being resistant to something, or if it's a lesson that, like, it'll just, like, hit me and I'll be like, well, this has come up a couple other times in my life. Like, why does this keep on coming up, you know? That maybe I need to take a look at that and say, you know, because I'm a believer that lessons will be repeated until they are learned. And so it's like, well, why does this lesson keep on coming up? What am I resistant to learning? You know what I mean? And so I think, do you ever just make decisions like in your head? I just decided I'm not working out. I'm going to listen to my audiobook. I mean, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to go work out tonight. But I think it's interesting when you look at all of that. And then I also like, you know, I don't know, like I remember my ex's dad passed away and he was like Southern Baptist. And I remember going to the funeral and it was like fire and brimstone. And I'm not passing any judgment on anybody that believes in all that kind of stuff. But it was like so dark and it was like, you know, like, I don't know. It just was like, it was not how I had ever heard anything in a church before. And it was like, and I'm not saying that maybe all Southern Baptists are this way, but it was very old school, you know, like, and you will be punished for your sins and, you know, and all this. And I was like, oh my God, like, is this a funeral or are we being like, you know, like sentenced to judgment? And I just don't believe in that. I believe very much in a loving God. You know, I believe very much in a loving force of nature or universe or whatever is out there. An understanding. I mean, I believe that my God laughs at me often because I fuck up and make mistakes, and he's like, okay, but you're human, and that's what humans do, you know? I think it's interesting sometimes, though, I will say this, that some of the people that pass the most judgment are the most religious, spiritual people, supposedly. And I'm like, but if you really believe in the Word of God, okay, like, it's understood that we're going to make mistakes and that we're human and that we're going to learn from that, you know? But I don't get tied down by all that too much, you know? And I allow people to have their belief systems as long as they don't hurt other people. If they do have belief systems that hurt other people, I try to kind of just stay out of their way, honestly. It's like, hey, have your belief. I was a right fighter for so much of my life, and if there's something right in front of my face that I feel like I need to right fight about, I'll do it. But if it's over here, I don't always dip my finger in it. You know what I mean? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is something I need to say something about, but not always I don't. I've learned that, and I think, like, my mother was somebody, like, you know, I've shared this on here before. My dad said that he said at one point, like, we got in this kind of argument, he's like, you're just so much like your mother, you know, you don't pick your battles. And at that point, I don't think I really did pick my battles very well, you know. Today, I don't know, I try to pick my battles a little bit. Not everything is something that I want to war over, you know. The reality is, you know, like, I learned this a long time ago with, like, being gay, right? If somebody gets to know me and they realize, you know what, Peter and his husband are really no different than us, except that they're two men that are married, whatever their preconceived ideas are about that, okay, or their judgments or whatever, what they realize over time is they're, like, I'm just really not a whole lot different except for who I love. But if I shove it in their face and I force them to deal with it, right, like, then they automatically have a resistance to it. And I think that many of us are like that. Like, if you force me to have to accept, I'm gonna be like, what? Like, no. And so what I've learned over time is that through kindness, compassion, understanding, tolerance, love, that we can change the world, you know? I don't think anger changes a whole lot. I just don't. I just don't think it changes a lot. I just don't, you know? I've been really angry and outraged at times, and it's only kind of like when I funnel that into constructive energy, if that makes sense, that anything positive comes out of it. And I'm somebody that can very much get taken with, like, You know, like I talk so much about positivity and people are like, how do you stay positive all the time? I don't, you know, like I have to be very careful. Like I can fall into a lot of negativity. I have to be really careful about that, you know, and check myself and talk to my sponsor and talk to my husband and Tanya and, you know, and just make sure that I'm staying on track. I just try to worry about myself mostly, you know. So I don't worry a whole lot about the afterlife thing. Quite frankly, I mean, I think one of two things will happen. Either, I mean, it's a really good question. I could sit here, you want to come over to my house for coffee and we could sit just talk about it for hours? I mean, that's the kind of shit I love to do, is just sit around and talk about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I do. I love having those kind of like deep intellectual conversations. Oh my God. Back in the day, we'd put on some Simon and Garfunkel, you know, or some Bob Dylan or Judy Collins, and we'd light the incense and the candles and we'd smoke some cigarettes and make some coffee, and we just have those deep conversations till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I loved it. Don't you love that? I love that so much. But you know, and you know, the other thing is too, is it's like, I don't know if this is an age thing, but for me it was. Like, I didn't understand this until I got older. Like, when I was younger, like in my 20s, like, if somebody had an opinion or if somebody had a point of view, like, that was their point of view, right? Well, what I know now at 46 is that in 10 minutes from now, somebody might say something to me and my point of view might completely change. And that's my right, okay? Like, somebody might say something to me and I might be like, well, you know what? I never looked at it that way before, you know? Like, oh, now I feel differently about it, you know? Like, Tanya always says that to me. She's like, I can change my opinion every 5 minutes if I want to. Something might happen and I might change my opinion. I might not feel the same way that I did 5 minutes ago, you know? But I think that when you're younger, you're so convicted and passionate about the world, you know? And I still am very passionate and convicted about the world, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I think we sometimes go about change the wrong way, you know? It's like with my bullies, only when I tried to put myself in their shoes. Like when I went to go meet with my bully for coffee, if you haven't watched my vlogs for a while, you don't know this, but like, I had put this thing on Facebook, and so indirectly calling out my bully in high school, my biggest bully, and he knew it was him, but I didn't say his name. And he reached out to me and he asked me if we could go have coffee and talk. And I was very apprehensive about it. I was scared. I was nervous. I didn't know what to make of all of it. But anyway, you know, I really thought a lot to myself very much about like the whole like To Kill a Mockingbird thing of like, you don't really truly know somebody until you walk around on their front porch for a while, you know? And I really went into that whole experience with what was it like for him? You know, why was he doing that? And when I was able to do that and remove my emotions and my feelings from it and then hear his side openly, then I was allowed to give credence to my emotions. And then he asked where I was coming from, you know? And I think also it helped that we were older, you know, like we were in our 30s at that point. Like I don't think that would have happened at 22, you know what I mean? Like, so, but I think, you know, that's one of the things is that I really, like once the dust settles and the anger settles and if I've worked on the resentment, you know, in inventory or something like that, then I sit back and I look and I try to look with love and compassion, like at why the other person might have acted the way they did. Because really in any situation today, I kind of want to understand what my part in that was, because that's all I can change, right? And so if I can understand, instead of just seeing it from my point of view, but maybe why they feel justified in doing whatever they did, then I have a better understanding of the whole situation. And I'm so thankful for the sponsor that I have, because she really challenges me on shit like that, you know? She'll say, well, do you think they this, or do you think they that, or whatever, you know, even if that's my husband or Tanya or whatever that we're talking about, you know? It rarely ever is, because they're perfect people, just in case they're watching this vlog, which they're not. But anyway, they don't watch my vlogs. I asked Tanya one time, I said, do you watch most of my videos? She goes, are you kidding me? She goes, I hear you talking up. I don't need to watch your videos. But anyway, so, I don't know. But like with the whole afterlife, no, I just don't think about it a whole lot. I really don't, you know? And like with my mom, I was terrified to die. Like death was my #1 fear. Sharks, dying by being eaten alive by sharks, that was a close second, okay? But I was terrified of dying. And then when my mom passed away, like I would say today, like I'm not ready to go. And like if I think too much about it, I kind of start getting a little weirded out by it, like even as it was just kind of going through my head. But like I don't really have the same fear that I used to have. I wouldn't say it completely went away. I would say I don't think about it as much anymore, because what I realize is, like she said, you know, like Charlotte said in Charlotte's Web, it's part of the cycle of life. We're born, we live, we die. And I respect that cycle today, you know? And what I also respect is that I have to make the most of my life. You know, and I wanted to say this earlier on here. I was thinking about this, is that I think really, like, I always kind of try to have a theme for whatever my goals are going to be in the next year, you know? And I really think that my goal for 2019 is to really be like my most authentic self. And I don't just mean like, I really work hard on that on a daily basis anyway, but I mean just like if I'm going to a party and I want to wear some crazy shirt, wear the crazy shirt, you know? Don't think about what other people are going to say. If I want to wear my red Vans, wear my red Vans, you know? Or if I want to blast my music coming down the street, you know? I don't have to think about, like, if somebody has an issue with that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be my most authentic self and not be offensive to other people, though, I guess, would be the music part. But, you know, and live my life, you know, colorfully, and to take risks and have fun and just eat it like the juiciest piece of fruit. You know what I mean? Like, that's really what I want my life to look like. Fear of death or fear of an afterlife stands in the way of that joy. It stands in the way of that. You know, it was interesting. Somebody commented on my vlog, I think it was 2 days ago, and said something about joy on there, about like seeking joy in life. And I thought, you know, it's so interesting because like we sometimes talk about it just being enough to like get through a holiday, or like let's make it through the holidays, or you know, like let's do this or let's do it. But we don't ever talk about like really like seeking absolute bliss and happiness, right? Like, why don't we focus on that? Why don't we focus more on ultimate happiness and joy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that that's a much better goal, you know, that I'm going to work on being the happiest I can possibly be every day, you know, and just really not take anything for granted, and just really just live life to the fullest and just enjoy it to the most. And, you know, it's hard. And whenever I say that, I always get some comments, and people are like, well, my life is so difficult. My life is this. Okay, I understand. There's a lot of people that like right now is maybe not the time for that, you know, that there's a lot of, you know, obstacles to that. But down the road, maybe there won't be, you know. So no, I don't think it would change my life. Like, I don't think that I would go out and act horribly, if I knew there was no afterlife. Like, screw it, it's not gonna matter anyway. Like, cause I don't feel like I do it because of an afterlife, if that makes sense. So I don't know that it would change it. I honestly, I try to be the happiest, kindest, healthiest, you know, growing version of myself on a daily basis, because I benefit from that, you know, as well as the people around me. But like, mostly I benefit from that during my life, not afterlife, you know. Like, I'm the one that's going to benefit from that while I'm alive and living. And not so much once I'm gone, because I don't even really know what that's going to look like. Well, I don't really know. I don't know what that's going to look like. None of us do, you know what I mean? And then we're getting into a conversation about what blind faith is, and that's a much deeper conversation, but I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, though, you know? Most of the atheists that I've talked to, you know, will say, no, it doesn't change my perspective at all because I want to be the best version of myself. It's just exactly what I just kind of said. You know, I want to be the best version of myself that I can possibly be. Yeah, so. But thank you for the questions. Those were some interesting questions. I like when you guys pose questions and ask them. It's fun. It's so, like, still out. There's, like, no cars. There's really outside at all. There's just one that passed me by. It was, like, the first one that's passed me in a long time. I just got the biggest craving for ice cream. I have no idea why. Isn't that so weird? But I'm not really hungry. I had tonight for dinner. Did I already talk about this? I think I already talked about this. I'm not going to relive it for you guys because it wasn't that exciting anyway. But I didn't even eat all my food because I was full. And I was like, I'm not going to force myself to eat this stuff. If I can't eat it, I'm just going to put it back. Because I ate all of like the meat supplement stuff. But like I had like extra cheese left. And I had the extra like this protein bar thing. I had another one that I was going to eat. And I put those back. So, back on track. Got to get that beach body. Every year before we go to Miami, Alex gets on this website, and it's called ASOS. And they actually have a men's plus size section on there that has some cute clothes. I will say that. I was really impressed when I saw that on there. But anyway, they have men's and women's clothes, so go check it out. But it's ASOS. No, this is not an affiliate code. And somebody said on my video the other day, on my main channel, they said, you talk about all these people and their affiliate codes, and then you linked an affiliate code underneath there. I think it was for my fans. I was like, did you watch the video? Like I said in the video, I don't make any money off this. Like, this is a discount code for you guys to be able to get cheaper fans, okay? It's not an affiliate code. Do you think I would really make a video about that, and then the very next video that I would post, I would put a non-disclosed affiliate code in there? Do I really look that stupid? Some of you are like, yeah, you really do. Those are the first 2 to 5 dislikes that the video gets in the first 5 seconds that it's been posted. Anyway, thank you for watching my video and having me subscribe to me so that you get my notifications. Anyway, but Alex always orders this stuff from ASOS. It's just all such a game to me that somebody hates me so much that they have subscribed to my channel and they get notifications, and as soon as a notification comes up for my vlog, they immediately dislike the video. Okay. Sorry you hate me, you know what I mean? It's a lot of negative energy to be putting out there in the world. Anyway, but Alex always orders off this website called ASOS, and I'm always jealous because he always gets the cutest tank tops and the cutest shorts and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, this year I'm ordering from ASOS, okay? I don't care if I ever order from anything else. I'm ordering from ASOS for our trip this year. I'm so excited about it. I just got to get in shape before I order that stuff because I don't want to be ordering stuff as motivation clothes and then not hit it, you know what I mean? I was reading the signs at the McDonald's over there. This is maybe not the healthiest drive for me to make right down the road here where they got every fast food restaurant that I love. I'm not really hungry though. This is where the emotional mental craving happens for me, is that I start thinking about things that sound good. Like the ice cream, I was thinking about peppermint ice cream because peppermint ice cream always sounds good at Christmas. But I'll allow myself to have a little bit on my cheat day. My cousin texted me today and asked me if we want to come over for Christmas dinner at 2 p.m. on Christmas Day. So I'm excited about that because then we'll do Christmas Eve with Alex's family. We'll do Christmas Day with Caroline. So I'm really excited about that. Oh my God. And I watched Mickey's Christmas Carol today. So I've actually watched a Christmas movie already this year. I got one done. And I almost finished the Christmas Chronicles. So I'm excited about that. I actually could go for a little bit of coffee right now. I may pull into the gas station and get a decaf coffee because I'm almost up here at Speedway. The convenience stores of Speedway. Thank you, nice people out there, for all saying that my face looks thinner. I don't know that I think it does. I don't know that I'm gonna really notice, so, until like probably like another 20 pounds or something, you know what I mean? I took my coat off because, I took my coat off because, and put it in the back because the heat is on and it's so toasty warm in my car. But now that I'm gonna have to get out to go get this coffee, I'm not sure that I really want to put my coat on. And I'm not sure that I want to run in with no coat on, so. All right, well listen, I'm gonna get off here. This is, I think, about an hour, unless I have the other part at home. I hope I have the other part at home. I have all these bottles of water back here that I haven't finished. So these are, I'm gonna have to finish both of these tonight after I drink some of my coffee. And yeah, and let me know what you guys are doing. Oh my God, so many people let me know in the comments too, like what they're doing. They're like, I read a Christmas book, or I watched a Christmas movie. So let me know how, what you're doing for Christmas. I definitely am getting my Christmas tree up tomorrow. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday. It's the beginning of your weekend, and I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.